Am I the a-hole for accusing my wife of cheating based on an email? I, 47 million, and I feel grateful for the life I share with my wife, Emily, 45. Emily and I have always had a strong connection, and I've considered us to be a perfect match. However, an unexpected email I recently received has shaken that belief, leaving me to question things I never thought I would. Emily spent 5 years in the UK while completing her PhD. During that time, she formed deep friendships and developed a habit of visiting every few years to stay connected. This past August, she traveled to the UK for 3 weeks to attend a friend's wedding, and it didn't seem like an event they would enjoy. Emily returned as planned, and everything seemed to go back to normal. Until last week. Out of the blue, I received an email on my work account. It was from a woman who claimed to be the wife of Emily's friend Jake, who is 44 years old. She wrote that she had strong reasons to believe that Emily and Jake were having an affair. The sender detailed several suspicious incidents. Jake picking Emily up from the airport, spending extended periods at her hotel, and going out for private dinners together. The email included evidence as well. One of Emily's earrings that the sender claimed to have found in Jake's pocket while doing laundry, and a lipstick stain on Jake's shirt in a shade that closely matches one that Emily wears. While there were more claims and details in the email, those stood out to me the most. Initially, I dismissed the email, thinking it was a cruel joke or a mistake. However, the accusations have been gnawing at me. Before Emily's trip, I recall her frequently chatting with her friends in the UK, and now that I think about it, she seemed to be in contact with Jake more than the others. I also know Emily has never gotten along with Jake's wife, although I'm unsure of the reason why. I've never invaded Emily's privacy by checking her phone or social media, but I'm tempted to do so now. At the same time, I worry that I'll feel it's terrible if I find nothing, as it would indicate that I doubted her without cause. On the other hand, if she senses my suspicion, she might delete anything incriminating before I have a chance to see it. I'm unsure how to handle this situation. Should I confront Emily directly and ask to see her phone immediately? Or would that only escalate things and make the situation worse? Any advice on how to navigate this without jumping to conclusions would be greatly appreciated. Edit: I forgot to include that my wife no longer has the earrings. She wasn't wearing them when she returned, and when I asked about them, she said she lost them. A few hours after my initial post, I confronted Emily about the situation, and she admitted everything. She confessed that she's in love with Jake and no longer wants to live a lie. Although she says she still cares for me and the kids, she's determined to leave us. Emily claims she'd been waiting for the right moment to break the news, but it's clear she hadn't planned on telling me anytime soon. It turns out this affair started back in March, with Jake secretly visiting her during his trips here. We're now heading toward a divorce. Emily is preparing to move to the UK soon. In addition to attending a wedding in August, she had a job interview and has secured a position starting early next year. She's already applied for a UK visa and intends to live with Jake once she moves. When it comes to custody, Emily has decided not to fight for full custody of the children, saying she doesn't want to disrupt their lives by uprooting them. While part of me appreciates that decision, I'm stunned at how effortlessly she seems to be stepping away from her role as a mother. She's agreed to pay child support, though I'd prefer to raise my kids without relying on her finances. My lawyer has informed me that child support will likely be mandated regardless of my feelings. Emily has also requested structured visitation rights, which the court is likely to grant. For now, the plan is for her to have visitation during school breaks and holidays, along with virtual calls in between. We're also discussing what to do with our home. Emily wants to sell it and split the proceeds, which makes sense since we purchased it during our marriage. Although I would love to keep the house for the kids, selling seems unavoidable. The lawyers are working out the details, and I've been advised not to make any major financial moves in the meantime. As things stand, Emily has moved into an Airbnb, and Jake has flown in to stay with her. They plan to leave for the UK together in the near future. Legally, my lawyer has explained that Emily's infidelity won't significantly impact the division of property or custody, unless we can prove she used marital funds to support her affair. Since it's likely she used her personal account, it probably won't change anything in court. I've been in contact with Jake's soon-to-be ex-wife, Eleanor. Initially, our communication was through email, but we've also spoken on the phone a few times. Eleanor apologized for sending me the initial message, worrying that it might have made things worse. I assured her that I'd rather know the truth than remain in the dark, even if the outcome was painful. She shared additional evidence of the affair, although it has become largely unnecessary now that Emily has openly admitted to it. Eleanor has revealed a lot about Jake, including the fact that this isn't his first affair. She told me it's the 3rd time he's cheated on her, and she has reached her breaking point. Unlike Emily, Jake is determined to fight for custody of his children, suggesting that Eleanor anticipates a lengthy, contentious divorce. For me, the most heartbreaking aspect of all this is seeing how it's affecting my kids. My youngest daughters have started asking why their mom isn't around as much, and it has been difficult to explain the situation in a way they can understand. My eldest seems to grasp more of what's happening, but it has made him quiet and withdrawn. Fortunately, my family has been an incredible source of support. My siblings have sent thoughtful letters and gifts for the kids, and one of my brothers and his wife drove up last weekend to visit. My sister-in-law even prepared meals for us, some of which are still in the freezer. They kept the kids entertained while I met with my lawyer. My parents call daily to check in, and my mom is planning to stay with us for 2 weeks next month to help out around the house. Their love and care have been invaluable during this difficult time. To those who encouraged me to confront Emily after my last post, ignoring Eleanor's message would have been easier in the short term, but I'm glad I faced the truth. Emily's actions have shown her true colors, and it's clear her idea of waiting for a better time was only about what suited her and Jake. Second update. Here's my attempt to vent and sort through my thoughts now that I've had more time to reflect. Over the years, Emily frequently traveled to the UK, supposedly for social or professional reasons. She insists her relationship with Jake only began in March 2024, but I have a hard time believing her. It's clear to me and to others who know the situation that this was carefully orchestrated over a long period. By the time I confronted her, she already had legal documents and preparations in place. Jake showing up in Canada almost immediately afterward only confirmed that they had coordinated everything, including the timing of her confession. The evidence of her planning is undeniable. Emily had secured a job in the UK, applied for her visa, secretly had our family car appraised, and even sent personal items with Jake during his covert visits, all before I had any inkling of what was going on. From what I've since learned, Emily had been consulting with a divorce lawyer as early as late summer. A mutual friend of hers mentioned that Emily had been moving belongings to the UK during her trips, confirming my suspicions. I keep replaying everything in my head, especially her trip to the UK for the wedding in August. She left with 3 full suitcases, claiming they were packed with gifts for friends. When I picked her up from the airport, those bags were inexplicably lighter. It's painfully obvious now that she was transferring her things abroad, preparing for a life without us. And yet I didn't question any of it at the time. Looking back, I feel foolish. The signs were there, but I chose to trust her. I keep wondering if things could have turned out differently if I had been more observant or proactive. The hardest part is knowing my inaction has affected my children the most. While I was oblivious, Emily was effectively starting over, leaving me to pick up the pieces of the life she abandoned. Most people in my life are now aware of the separation. I've stopped wearing my wedding ring and have explained the situation to friends and colleagues who noticed. Some people, including a few commenters on Reddit, suggested I consider DNA tests for my kids, given Emily's history of dishonesty. While I understand their reasoning, I refuse to entertain the idea. My children are mine, no matter what. Life without Emily has been overwhelming. My mornings are chaotic as I juggle getting the kids ready and making it to work on time. I've fallen behind schedule more often than I'd like to admit. The thought of shoveling our long driveway this winter fills me with dread, especially since it's yet another responsibility I'll have to handle alone. The kids are struggling too. They dislike my cooking and are upset about how little time I have for them. Meanwhile, Emily seems entirely detached from the chaos she's left behind. I recently learned that she's off traveling through I've been navigating life in Europe with Jake, feeling completely carefree. I have no idea if she plans to return to Canada briefly or head straight to her new life in the UK. On the positive side, I've taken the kids to see their doctor, who provided excellent advice and resources to help them adjust. She emphasized that time and open communication are key. While I'm trying to stay optimistic, it's hard to see my kids so upset and acting out. It's clear they're struggling to adapt. My family has been a lifeline during this challenging time. My mother arrived last week as promised, and her presence has been a blessing. The kids love her cooking, and having her around has made everything feel a bit more manageable. She's taken over some of the household duties, allowing me to focus on other pressing matters. Regarding the future, I've been considering designating my eldest brother and his wife as legal guardians for the kids in case anything happens to me. They've agreed and live nearby, which gives me some peace of mind. However, the divorce process has been dragging on, so I don't expect any final resolution soon. The question of our home remains unresolved. After much deliberation and input from my family, I'm leaning towards selling. Emily has offered me a slightly larger share of the proceeds since she sold our SUV before leaving. My lawyer believes I can argue for this because I contributed significantly to the SUV's purchase, even though it was in her name. In the meantime, I'm considering trading in my sedan for a larger vehicle that would better accommodate the kids and my mom when she's here. I've started looking at townhouses closer to my job. The shorter commute and proximity to a well-rated school are appealing, but moving would mean uprooting the kids from their current school and friends, which worries me. An alternative is to find a smaller home nearby, reducing my workload while keeping the kids' routine stable. Either way, a fresh start in a new space feels necessary. Our current house is a reminder of how I let Emily take the lead on decisions, even when it wasn't practical for me. It was chosen to accommodate her commute rather than mine, which has made things harder now. I've had no contact with Emily's family and have no interest in reaching out. As for her future with Jake, I don't wish her unhappiness, but I find some comfort in knowing she is unaware of his history of infidelity. Neither Eleanor nor I feel obligated to warn her about the man she's chosen. Speaking of Eleanor, I've been checking in on her regularly. She doesn't have the family support I do, and her relatives seem more concerned about Jake's wealth than her well-being. They're pressuring her to stay with him, even though reconciliation is clearly off the table. This entire experience has been exhausting and surreal. I'm doing my best to stay strong for my kids, but the road ahead feels daunting. I just hope in time we can find some sense of normalcy again.